6:36, Jeff and Jeremy, it's KZOZ. Been watching this coverage of the Hurricane Harvey in Texas at all, in Houston?
Not really, no. I just haven't had the time to. You can't really escape it. I mean, you know, you turn
terrible
on,
hurricane flooding.
It seems like they kind of did not plan properly for what could have happened, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know about that side of it. I don't know how they plan for it. I don't know how they prepare for it living, next to the coast like that. But the hurricane is, it's bad, and everybody's seen all the rescuing, and it's supposed to get worse, I guess I heard today, that the storm went back out in the ocean. It could come back even more violent. They've got dams that could be breached. They're talking about dams that are going to overflow their spillways, and it's just going to be a complete mess. And at the center of this, which I found interesting, was this guy, Joel Osteen, who is I'm not going to call him a televangelist or anything because I don't think he tries to raise money, but he's a big pastor that is on TV.
Whoa. How does he not try to raise money?
Well, I mean, they raise money, right, within the church, but I don't know.
Isn't he like rich?
I don't know the exact definition of a televangelist, and I haven't looked it up, but it's just the first thing that popped into my mind because he's one of these pastors that's on TV, ministers. I'm not sure exactly what he goes by, but he's got that mega church down there, Lakewood. And you know who he is, right? He's a big motivational speaker / pastor. Have you seen any of his stuff on TV?
Yeah, I've seen his picture. I tend to, when somebody's going to, save me, I kind of run the other way. I think there's only one savior.
Okay.
It's the big man.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. He's got the biggest church.
He's very popular. And he's one of the bigger churches in the United States, if not America. And apparently,
he's the senior pastor of the Lakewood Church. So
he's.
I think he's in some money raising.
Well, I'm sure he is. He's got TVs. He's got these TV episodes that air and so on. And I've seen a little bit of that. But he's they've had the church locked up. It holds over 16,000 people. I've heard 16,000, 17,000 people. It looks like a big giant stadium, or not a stadium, but like an arena, if you will, where it looks kind of like a basketball arena. But if you took out the floor and you put all seats in so people could sit down. And he's getting a lot of flack because the fact that, there are people looking for places to go for shelter. And the Red Cross is running out of places to do it. He has not opened the doors, and he was getting a lot of flack for it. He said it's not safe and that there's flooding there. Well, there was a gal that attends the church. I don't know, she could be a part of the staff. She released a few pictures of what it was going on at the Lakewood Church. And apparently it's their underground parking structure has been flooded and some of the basement rooms. But the actual arena itself is fine. So it's kind of a sad story and sick. Now, the Osteen family, or Joel Osteen, has come back and said that, if we're asked to open our doors, we will. But at this point, it's not safe due to the rising waters in around the church.
This is a sad comment on where we are as society, okay? But
what is your sad perspective?
You can't invite people into a dangerous situation, even if it's a less dangerous situation than what they are in right now.
But it wasn't a dangerous situation.
What happens if they come in to this dangerous situation and there are pictures that of flooding happening at the church, and somebody
in the basement and in the basement quarters. Yeah.
And somebody gets down in there and they get injured as a result of that, and then they choose to sue you because they got injured in your church, in your facilities, because you had opened your doors.
At some point, you could say, okay, if we can save 15,990 people, but 10 people are dumb enough to cross lines that say do not cross, and they get hurt, then that's just the price we have to pay because we helped 15,000 plus people.
But you can't, and this speaks volumes to the enormity of the situation down there, is you cannot plan for this. So you don't have the proper, I guess, release forms drafted for people that you're rescuing. There's no agreement in place. And in this
is a tragedy. This is a natural disaster. There is no release forms. Things happen and you react and you help out your brother. You help out other humans. You help out other animals. You do whatever you can to preserve life. You don't think about release forms.
In a non-litigious utopia that you live in, maybe that is the case. But the problem is we do not live in a non-litigious utopia. We live in
my world, when the S hits the fan, you do whatever you can to save people. You don't think about the legalities of what's going to happen later. You just hope people do the right thing.
What if you end up losing your church because
otherwise
somebody
you lose
dies?
thousands of people because...
Or what if dozens of people die in the basement because there was flooding and they went down there?
If thousands were saved and a dozen died, I can deal with that.
But you could deal with it, but would the church be able to deal with it? Would the people, the parishioners of the church be able to deal with it?
I think so.
If they can't go to a church anymore because it doesn't exist because they had to hand it over to the families of the victims?
Is that really your reality?
Yes, I think that's the reality of life.
Well, it's so good to know that Joel Osteen and his church, Lakewood Church, have got their release forms together. So by tomorrow, they can let everybody in.
Hey, okay, here's the deal. We got an 18,000-seat arena here. We know that a lot of you are homeless. We're working on getting our paperwork in check, making sure we check with our lawyers before we could let you in. Now, as dumb as that sounds, it's probably how that had to go down because we live in a litigious society. There are people that would have taken advantage of that situation if they were to get injured in his church while being saved. I don't know, maybe they slip on some slippery stairs and they're like, oh, you didn't have the stairs cleaned off for me.
At some point, you throw all that out the window, though.
You laugh.
Because okay, let's say, for example, let's say we were attacked, all right? Let's say the state of California was attacked, and there was, coming in here on the Central Coast, and there was another country that was coming in with their military, and they were shooting citizens, and you were trying to go find somewhere to take refuge. And you found a wine cellar. I don't know, one of these big wineries here. There's a big wine cellar, and they're putting everybody on the ground. They're trying to protect them. And all of a sudden, they're like, oh, hold on. You can't come in. We don't have a release. I mean, that's ridiculous. You would let everybody in. You wouldn't think about that later. You wouldn't think about them falling down, or maybe, there's a mold down there and they get mold spores and then they get sick.
Is it ridiculous, or is it the society that we live in? I mean, I think it's the way
I
it is.
understand the society that we live in, but I also think that's taking it too far. I think at some point when a natural disaster comes along, everything changes.
Yeah.
It changes the game.
It should be brothers in arms, right? It should be brothers in arms. But is it always brothers in arms if the brothers want to take away from you for trying to save them? I mean, we've seen it happen time and time again when people are trying to do a good deed on this. Like, what was it up in Sacramento a couple of years ago? There was a turned over van, and the passerby saw the turned over van, and he pulled over to see if everybody was okay. The paramedics give him a bottle of water because he rescued everybody from the van, and then sent him a bill. Sent him a bill
like $1,000
for like $1,000 for rendering services for him. He's like, you guys just gave me a bottle of water.
It's funny. Last week when you were gone and Jeff Stolberg was in here, we were talking about the 911 Good Samaritan law, and that is that if you are in possession of drugs or you're with someone who has overdosed, that you cannot be persecuted if the cops come and they find drugs around to a certain extent. Obviously, if you've got kilos and kilos, that's different. But if you just have, what you guys were using for personal use. So I don't know. There's got to be a way that if you stop to help somebody in an accident, that you are not going to be on the hook for something bad that happens to them or
Good Samaritan law. Like there should be a Good Samaritan law that would protect Joel Osteen if he were to open his doors and say, okay, everybody come on in, get safe from the flood.
And if there isn't, there should be.
But where there are Good Samaritan laws, there are loopholes and ways around it, and people that are opportunists looking to get money from somebody who's got lots of money, and that is Joel Osteen.
Hi, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Well, it looks like we have a Noah's Ark problem here.
Mm-hmm. Oh, we do. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. All right, you signed this paperwork. You're the lucky two. That's all it is. I really believe that that you can't just open your doors if the flood's going to come right over your church. So you got to wait and see what's going to happen. Mother Nature takes care of that. But, ultimately, you knew they were going to open their doors.
Well, I mean, they had to, right? I mean, otherwise this guy's committing career suicide. I mean, it's just like, you can't.
Hey, everybody come to this building and then watch it flood away.
The thing is, and the videos that we're looking at today is there's people that went up to the church and they're taking video of all the way around the church, the steps leading up to the front doors, the roads around. They're wet, but they're not flooded.
And what this guy is saying, and maybe this is they wanted to caution on the side of error in this one and make sure that they also weren't going to be flooded, because the worst thing that you could have happen is have an arena with 20,000 people in it fill up with water.
Well, it's not going to fill up that fast. I think the worst thing that could happen is this storm comes back in, no one has shelter, and hundreds of thousands of people die that could have been inside a structure being protected. That's the worst thing that could happen. You just got to
make sure, though. You got to make sure you're doing the right thing.
All right. Thanks for the call, bud. Appreciate it. Well, I'm glad to hear that he's going to open the doors. For God, I mean, if you've got a place that'll hold 16,000 plus people, you got to let those people in, right?
Do you think he opened the doors out of the kindness of his own heart, or under the negative PR backlash from people walking around with video cameras saying, well, this place seems pretty dry to me?
This was on CBS News last night, all right? TMZ's all over this. This is peer pressure. It's sad, but at this point, this is what it looks like.
Jeff and Jeremy in the morning. 93.3 KZOZ rocks.